Much better. Let me just double check to see if these things are connected. Whoops. They are? Okay. Oh, I had a sudden motivating kick to the tush to actually start answering some of the more common questions I repeatedly get about Lilith. And more than likely, I'm going to be revisiting the topic of how do we know if Lilith agrees to work with you, or if she's even drawn to you in the first place. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to be making an update, but nonetheless. So why don't we just start off with the first question. Is Lilith a demon? Well, now hold on. There are other beings named Lilith that are man-made, also known as, I like to call it, the construct Lilith. In other words, they go off of the Abrahamic way of saying how she is, and it's a construct. If you must ask, oh God, really, people? How dumb are you people? Wow, and I thought Adam was stupid. Man, 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 man. How can any of you even live with that low IQ of yours? Like, my good lord. Living like that for too long might get you killed. Please, loves, please use your head. Please be, using every bit of your brain. And for goodness sakes, stop thinking that women can be pushed around and are objects and are property and can be used to blame when you can't stop, trying to stick yourself in them. Stop it, idiots. You asked, and you can probably tell from how she responded and spoke to me, she's kind of annoyed. Not annoyed at you, but pretty much the idea of like, how come humanity hasn't understood the fact of, do we not know how to treat women on a more uniformal understanding level across the world? Why are we still having this issue? It should be so simple. And Lilith is actually a divine being, a primordial one at that. In other words, she is essentially divine that was when the void pretty much began dispersing everything. That makes sense. So she predated pretty much all the well-known gods such as Zeus, Hera, Ra. You get the idea. And she is known to be essentially the the primordial goddess that is empowered to her free will and can't be contained. If you try to restrict her, you made a big whoops. You may think you might get away with it, but careful when you turn your back because you might just hit a game over screen. Does Lilith have control over succubi? And how can I obtain one? Number one. Of course, all these questions are cutesy and all that. But let me remind you what Lilith's core is: empowerment of the self. Once you have empowerment of the self, everything else can be put on top of it and built upon from it. If you go outside of you for empowerment, you're doing it backwards and you're completely missing the point. And actually, Claudia, you having Black Moon Lilith in Aries, and I think, yeah, it was Aries. That's a potent position to have her in. And essentially, Black Moon Lilith in Aries shows that you get empowered by physical activity and you feel the most, how do I put this? Essentially, you feel the most empowered and you thrive off of doing physical activity, taking initiative, as well as pretty much being a leading force or someone that pretty much leads by example. Whenever you're in that position, you feel the most empowered. And let's see. And if I think too, I think it was also in the first house, right? If I'm remembering right off the top of my head. Because if that's the case, holy good Lord Atlanta. Lilith in the first house in Aries is the most potent possible position you can have her in. Because Lilith now becomes part of the physical body. She's in Aries, which so now she uses a physical body to take initiative. What is she all about? Empowerment of the self and taking action for herself first over everything else. So you're putting her in an environment where she's like, duh, obviously. So she's able to move and take initiative and act without any opposition. Yes, anime, that's right. Because there are some states where everybody has to kind of understand, hey, Kayla, it's not really that difficult to take a step back and think, is this really how I should be treating another human being? Should I be blaming them for pointing at them below the waist? Should I blame them for my lack of self-control that I grubbed them? Should I blame them for tempting me when they didn't even know I existed? Should I blame them? I wouldn't. If I was an idiot, I was an idiot. Stop being an idiot. But empowerment of the self, Claudia just hit it right on the nail, right on the head. That was actually what I was going into next. Whoever, now don't get me wrong, Lilith does have that aspect of the sexual side of her. It is what it is. She does have that side, but it is very minor, very minor, like painfully minuscule minor. Her core is empowerment of the self. So, going back to that thing about her controlling succubi. Yeah, you're not the only one in it. She, although she does have that aspect, she doesn't make that her priority. And besides, essentially using her as an object or depicting her as an object for those kind of vulgar actions, if that's actually making people believe this is honoring her, are you sure? Because it kind of makes it look like you are making her as something to look at and do your thing with, which is no. No. In fact, that kind of makes me want to vomit. But don't know why they did that. But when it comes to controlling succubi and whatnot, it's very minor. She does have that aspect. However, that's not her focus. If you want to attain a succubi, well, call out to one yourself. You don't need to have her do everything for you. Next one. I keep calling out to Lilith and she doesn't respond to me. Why is she not coming when I call out to her? Any ideas? Honest, this is an honest question. But Lilith, you can't tell her what to do. You can't command her. You cannot demand her. You cannot not push her to do anything. Because again, she's free spirited. She's empowered within herself. With that in mind, when you call out to her asking for her to come in, she is more than likely going to respond to the effect of, you think I'm going to just walk all in and listen? No. Boring. You keep saying my name and nothing's happening. I know why, because I don't want to do it. Boring. You know what? Maybe. Nah. And with Lilith, based on what I have done in my practice with her, the best way to actually have her come towards you is to actually use another aspect that she excels in, seduction. But now seduction is not being suggestive and dressing suggestive and being overly vulgar. True seduction operates in a way that affects the mind and has it become going in a state of being rampant. It becomes unhinged and it just keeps thinking and it doesn't stop because it's trying to figure out, wait a minute, how is this like this? But wait, then there's this and there's this. Well, she said it like this, and now this is tone. Yeah, that's what seduction does. It makes the mind wander. But now, when you use that to invite her towards you, invite is the big word there. Say, for an example, I was doing a working to woozy with some guy. Okay. And I would like Lilith to assist me with it. Simple. Essentially, you would go about it in a way to the effect of, Lilith, dear, I have just an idea of how we can have a lot of fun today. Yeah, I have, one of them man things that, you know, might sedate the hunger. So, hey, if you want to come along too, I mean, it'd be a lot of fun. But let me know, love, anytime when you're ready. By the way, if he misbehaves, I'll let you make an Adam out of him. Up to you, hon. Just let me know. Just like that. You're stating to her what you're going to be doing. You're inviting her and you're allowing her to make the choice. You're giving her her empowerment to make the choice. And if you word it in a way that actually makes her become, oh, we get to have fun with this? Another man thing? And if he's bad, another atom to the pile? Or, I'll think about it. In that way, if she comes towards you, she chooses to do so. You're giving her that empowerment to choose, which is a big one. You're not pushing her, you're not forcing her, you're simply giving to her what's going to be going on, and she's invited to attend if she wants to. And from there, if she chooses to come along, it's on her choice. There's a little bit of a hidden gem with that one. Next one. Is Lilith, how many husbands does Lilith have? Is she actually married to any of them? That's actually a good question. That's a very good question. Now, some would say she's married to Adam. Some would say she's actually married to Yahweh. Some would say that she's actually married to Samuel. Some would say married to Lucifer. So many potentials. But here's the thing. Here's another thing to think about. Me personally, I have no idea. But remember what she's all about. Empowerment of the self first over everything else. Maybe she only went along with being wedded as a wife to these figures. Well, almost. She did she just marry these figures, marry, just for the perks? Did she really do it for her empowerment? Is she really doing it because it makes her feel most empowered? Or is she just getting the perks of it? That I don't know. And we won't ever know because she knows what she's doing. She knows. We probably know. Even when some people would say, well, she's married to the devil. Well, if anything, hey, at least down with the devil, hey, there's a lot of fun, like the gambling halls, a lot of living life in the dark. At least it's not boring. Next question. What are some ways to attract Lilith to me? How can I be more appealing to her? Number one, probably the most important. Okay, don't be boring. Don't be doing the same old thing and every predictable thing over and over again. Why not change it up a little bit? Make it exciting, exotic, different. Why not just express your creativity your own way? Because I don't know, maybe that might work. Maybe I don't know. You haven't done it. That might work. Just don't be bored. Besides, if it's your creativity and if you're really trying to impress me, just be you and let yourself go. Art doesn't know no bounds, so just waiting on you. Just be you. Well, there are many potential spouses she has, but at the core, it's somebody else accounting and actually stating that. How do we know that she was just telling them that just to, here, just put that down and get away from me? I don't know. As far as we know, she could be just telling the person writing all this down, be like, here, just put that there. I'm married to him. Yeah, woo, 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 go away. Or she pretty much was stating that just to get the perks from being wedded to whomever and really was not going to hold herself down. Because the idea of marriage and unionship with Lilith, it's counterintuitive with her. She's all empowerment of the self, the putting herself first. Having unionship and having to rely and become attached to another person, and that person now is an obligation to you too. Hey, loyalty. She now also has to worry about somebody else, and she, when it comes to like a significant other, Lilith really is not really enthused of having to worry about somebody else who might be best said like a hindrance. But there's a difference between a child and like a husband figure or however. Lilith, well, when I first encountered her, I mean, I just looked to the left and all of a sudden I just blinked and then there she was, and then I was like stunned in place and my whole body just broke out into a big sweat. It didn't make me jump back or jolt. It just pretty much should best say it. And with entities jump scaring me, well, it tends to happen a bit, but after a while, I kind of pick up on how the pattern is usually, and how I like to just be all, ooh. Like one incident when I was living in a different place. The place I was living at actually had somebody who died in the home, suicide, and his spirit couldn't find his rest because of the suicide. So what this twithead did, whenever I closed the bedroom door that I was in, it always would pull the door. Like as I'm closing the door, it always would pull it shut behind me, and it almost made me like fall too many times. And after a while, it got pretty annoying to the point where I had hell with me at the time. So I decided to kind of like give it a good warning shot by when I was closing the door, I just closed it like I normally did, and then I just decided to close it harshly behind me. So then I opened the door again, very carefully, all the way through, all the way open, and then I closed it again, came around, pushed it closed again. So then I pushed the door open again, closed it, and as soon as I felt the door come through, like he was pushing the door closed, that's when hell came through me, pushed the door open, and screamed, "There you are!" And literally, that that spirit did not bother me ever again. And as soon as I left the house and I moved out of, literally, I had no issues, but for some reason, everybody else in the house had things missing. People couldn't sleep that well. People were getting touched. People were hearing voices all around the house. Well, put it this way, Hel being a Norse goddess of the underworld and the dead, and to the degree where if you're dead, she has full control of you, and you have to abide by what she says. No ifs, ands, buts, or tushies. So the spirit of somebody who's dead is trying to prank me and mess with me. Having Hel come in, scare the living heck out of them, and just telling them, "Oh, there you are." Of course, they would probably be thinking like, "Oh crap, I'm done for." So I'm not sure if whatever happened to him. I'm really care less because he was kind of rude and inconsiderate. But anyway, back with Lilith now. Another way to actually bring Lilith towards you is to actually do what makes you feel the most alive and what makes you feel empowered, such as me doing this, just putting oil mixtures on my face. This makes me feel empowered, and depending on what's in the oil mixture also plays a part in it too. As well, sticking up for yourself, regardless of whatever the situation is, and not letting anyone force you to do something that you do not want to do, that, within practical reason. If you don't want to do something because it's your job, well then, no. But if someone is trying to push you to do something that you know you don't want to do, it's not right, or it's not your problem. If you say no, well, stick up to it and be like, no, you can do it yourself, hon. I don't have to be doing all your work for you, you lazy twat. As well as Lilith is also, believe it or not, a goddess who prefers, and by prefers, meaning that she would much rather be having a lot of fun and not being around a buzzkill. So say you're doing everything right for yourself. You're being in your own power. You're expressing yourself as you deem fit within and without letting anybody hinder you. You're not letting other people command and control and push you in directions you don't want to go. You're sticking up for you and telling him, hey, hon, worry about your life. You're not letting anybody disrespect you. You're doing what's best for you, and you're doing what you want to do. As soon as you're doing that, more likely than not, that's when Lilith will start popping in more and more and more and more and more. In fact, when you notice that signals or like signs of her are more apparent, that's a good significant good indication that she is starting to be more comfortable around. But you have to maintain it, you have to keep it going. Yeah, it's hard because it only takes about a few times to go whoops and she's gone. If you're able to maintain that empowered state and keep it going, she will more than likely be in your space a lot of the time. But as soon as you're not doing what's best for you and not being your power, it is what it is. If you can't maintain that after a while, she'll just, oh, look, he's being stupid again. Nope, I'm done. I'm going. Whoops. My phone fell. Well, there you go. That's a good indication. I don't even know what just happened. I think that probably was like her indication, like, don't be stupid because this is what's going to happen. But when you're not doing what's best for you and you're letting others control your life instead of it being about your life, she's not going to like that. And she will be like, oh boy, look, he's being dumb again. Who unleashed the stupid in his head? Who did it now? Because whoever did it, wow, really? Why do you have to have this happen again? Oh, it's okay. It could be worse. You could be like that Adam guy. Oh man, and he was bad. Let me check something real quick. And if you happen to do any kind of, let's see, if you happen to write any poetry, make any specific, I do not know what just happened right there. I'm going to assume that it won't ever happen again, because that'd be nice if it didn't. But anyway, so, see what else. When you're writing any kind of poetry or even like writing a book like what I'm doing, if you're going to be writing anything, ensure you use words that are large. And by large, I mean they are not common. They have a pleasant sound to them, like glissade. I even refer to her as a black swan, maven of seduction. When you use words, I'm going to turn this light on. I mean, this fan on. When you use words such as those, it actually not only shows her that, he actually has a good word choice. And it actually sounds nice and pleasant, intriguing, and it'll bring her towards you. The more effort and the more unique you put out towards her, the more likely she'll come towards you. Because she doesn't like boring everyday things. But however, though, there is a fine line between not being able to actually be all fancy. Like, say, for an example, if you wanted to get her, say, like if you really were wanting to get her like a thing of flowers of some kind, and you really wanted to get her some, let's say, black velvet roses with some violets, but where you live, you're not able to get them. Of course, that's understandable. It's mainly just the thought that counts, and primarily just showing that you do want to at least invest towards her. But the black velvets and the violets, I mean, if you do get her that, well, That would be an impressive thing. Same thing with a black sapphire orchid, or I think it's a vampire orchid. hmm That's another suggested idea. Hmm. I think there's one more question. Can Lilith actually be exorcised away from causing any harm to anybody? More than likely not. If she is coming towards you in a way that's a little bit spiteful, vengeful, kind of really with the intention to really cripple you, you probably did something to make her pretty agitated, which could be any of the following. Number one, you probably intentionally harmed substantially one of hers that she claims. In other words, anyone that is of hers, a Lilithian, a daughter or son of Lilith, any of the whatnot. And number two, you probably abused a woman, did some kind of trauma to her, or caused her unnecessary stress, and it has damaged her psyche and sense of security so intensely that Lilith is not happy and she is hunting you down a lot like a shark following a trail of blood to a bleeding seal in the water, just to give a good idea of how focused and persistent she will be in getting vengeance for that. And number three, probably maybe abused or harmed a child unjustly, or you decided to take an action against a child that caused immense harm and permanent damage to their growth. And Lilith is not fond of those who commit acts of child abuse of any kind. Number four. More than likely, if somebody takes too much vain and too much pride in themselves to the point where they say that, oh, Lilith is with me, yet she is not fond of them and they have never worked with her in the first place, she will not be hesitant to be responding with, you think, oh, you think I'm working with you? Oh, no. She does not like people that pose and think that, oh, I work with Lilith. So when we call each other these vulgar names, it's empowering, and it's empowering to take that word back. Not really, you're going against the whole point, and now you're kind of insulting her at the same time, so you just shot yourself in the foot. Probably my favorite example is this one. The dark goddess Lilith must be and is expected to be respected. One line down. This dark goddess of harlots. Well, you just done got messed that up now, didn't you? You told everybody that she demands respect, yet in the next line you called her a goddess of harlots. That kind of doesn't work. You can't be pushing the idea that she demands respect, yet you insult her in the next line. That's like a new level of stupid. And for the love of good Lord Atlanta, calling her or associating her with only that that sexual aspect of her rather than her core of empowerment first, then you can build off of that, then go that direction. Anything else, if it's not empowerment as the core, just I'm gonna mess it up. Because with empowerment of the self and by my own choice and by my will, I'm making the choice to do this. I'm doing this because I make the choice to, and I want to. and I enjoy it. That's the difference. When you feel empowered by throwing yourself at whomever you deem fit to have a moment with, because that makes you empowered, that's not the same thing. It sounds nearly the same, but it's not. Being empowered to make the choice to do it because you please to and you want to, that's different. Relying on somebody else to make you empowered, that is the complete whiff. You completely whiffed her main intent. Empowerment comes from the self. From that foundation, you can go anywhere else afterwards. If you don't have that foundation with her, you're going to fail with her every time. Once you have your empower point, everything else will just fall into place easily. And there are many instances where she appears throughout history in other cultures and under different names. But me personally, I look at it this way. To my view, she is a handmaiden to Inanna because, again, that is counterintuitive. Why is she going to be subservient to somebody else? If she is all about empowerment of herself, why is she going to be being essentially Inanna's lower assistant? Ep- Not a problem. I'm just gonna go with, how do you say your name? Al? Al? I'm trying to keep that there. And I would describe my bond with Lilith, essentially the best way to put it is, oh, what's the word? It's spontaneous and empowering because naturally, as the way she is, she just comes in wherever she loves to come in. She can just come on in, just all, I'm here, yoo-hoo, okay, good, keep doing your smart thing. She comes out of nowhere. But as soon as she comes in, that's when she can just pop out. She just flows and goes as she likes. She naturally does it. And hey, Jeremy. And how do I know her? Well, it's funny. When many moons ago, I have to make that joke. Sorry, Kendra. I can't help but make that joke every time. I I remember watching, and that was also who. Hey, Laura. Yep. Whenever I'm trying to remember what year it was. I think it was 2 years ago, 2019-ish. Yeah, I think that's when she still had that video up. But Kendra had her first original video up about Lilith, and this was a long time ago, and it was long. It was a long video, but I watched it all the way through. And as soon as I stood up and walked away from the computer and was going to go into the bathroom, as I'm walking out, I just blink, and all of a sudden I see this woman figure dressed in. I'm going to try to remember it the best I can. She was wearing a black, like a long black Victorian style dress that was kind of cut off to the knees. It was lace with roses, like rose etching with some skulls etched into two, and she had a little owl perched on her shoulder. She had long blood red black, like it was black with blood red tips or like layers to it. And she just had these eyes that were like crimson blood red, but they weren't like hostile, but they were just bright. And she had this very faint smirk, very faint, like I can't even do it. But it was just that faint smirk, and as soon as I blinked twice, she was gone. And then that's when I heard, something to the effect of, I think it's time that we show these little boys who really is in charge. What do you say? Okay, I didn't say no, because if I'd said no, that would be stupid of me. Why am I going to decline a divine's invitation to have them work with me? Yep. Yep, in that video, Jeremy, everything is no longer around. Hmm, interesting. Yeah, like, oh, hi, Lisa. Yes, the Lisa smile smirk. The, but more, kind of more like, oh, hello. You're not going to stab me, are you? Kind of vibe with it, too. Actually, speaking of Lilith, I have almost like the first bit completely finished writing, and that's the only part that is the most like long to write because I'm actually writing out the oldest origin that I know of her, which is her emerging from the void, encountering encountering Yahweh and just being all, oh God, how do I get rid of this